Superman has soared into theaters and officially begun the revamping of DC on the big screen, paving a path for the years ahead as we are slowly introduced to brand new iterations of beloved heroes. And so today, in celebration of the new DCU, we're taking the good and bad of the brand new Superman to determine where that leaves us for the various DC films to come. As we're talking specifics, this will contain spoilers for Superman, so if you've yet to see the film and don't want to be spoiled on specific events, I highly recommend saving this video for a later watch. We've rounded out a decade of darker Supermen, from Snyder's take on the character, to games like Injustice, to the various evil Supermen plaguing Invincible and The Boys. It's been a while since the Big Blue Boy Scout got to be just that. But what Superman does do is take inspiration from those prior iterations and ask one simple question. What is Superman? Is he a god come from the heavens to save us all, or a monster sent to destroy our very way of life? That gods and monsters is really starting to come together, huh? Superman asked this question with perhaps one of the most controversial changes to Supes lore, by making the heroic sacrifices of Jor-El and his wife Lara more villainous. They've no longer sent Kal to be the beacon of hope they once did, instead telling him that humanity's weakness will make them easy to subjugate and rebuild his race upon their planet. And while this does work for this one film and its message, I do fear the effect this has going forward. When it comes to Superman's greatest foes, General Zod is always highly ranked upon the list, and a large deal of the animosity shared between the pair comes from Zod's former feud with Jor-El, a feud that may no longer exist, as now Jor-El shares Zod's view of conquering Earth for the survival of the Kryptonian race. Now, is this impossible to work around? No. There are still plenty of ways that Superman and Zod can come to blows regardless of this change. But a major part of Superman and Zod's conflicts was the idea of Kal shouldering the hopes and responsibilities of his father and helping see his battle through to the finish. Where Superman does sacrifice the connection between Kal and his Kryptonian parents, it truly builds upon his connection to Earth. While Ma and Pa Kent don't take up a lot of screen time, their scenes are perhaps some of the most impactful to Clark's own resolution. The reveal of Jor-El's true message really sets the stage for the later half of the movie, and throws Supes into a spiral of doubt, as he himself frets the possibility of being the monster Luthor claimed him to be. It's Pa Kent that finally nips this in the bud, with a simple message that helps Superman find the truth. Humans aren't defined by their upbringing, they're defined by their choices. It's for Clark to decide if he's a god or a monster, or, as he does determine at the close of the film, human. James Gunn set out to tell an intimate Superman story that focused mainly on the idea of Superman's connection with humanity, and those he'd become close with, be it his adoptive parents in Smallville, or his friends at the Daily Planet. And Superman does the work to leave lasting impressions of Supes' core group of friends, painting Jimmy and Lois in a way that gets us to see what makes him value that connection. And it was nice to get to see the non-powered cast work towards Luthor's downfall. Jimmy and Lois playing a major role in overcoming the mentally manipulative side of Luthor, while Superman and the Justice Gang overcame the more direct threat that he posed. The movie gives us an early glimpse at this pair, and paints them in a way that feels very similar to how the MCU set up Rhodey and Pepper. As while they'll always play most prominently with Superman, I could easily see Jimmy and Lois having ties to the Justice League, and working some sort of side subplot that all comes together to help the League in their team-up films. Beyond them though, there were very few characters that felt integral enough to the story that I'd expect them to pop up in any team-up films, or even future films in any meaningful capacity. The Justice Gang was fun, but I'd be completely fine if they didn't show up again in the next Superman film, or simply remain background characters that popped up on rare occasions. Well, with the exception of Mr. Terrific. I'll be honest, as a prior Arrowverse fan, I never thought there'd be a time where I didn't find this character to be completely annoying and an unneeded addition to a cast, but Superman made me realize just what Arrow had squandered. The Mr. Terrific we were introduced to in Superman may have been my favorite character in the entire film, and I'd love to see him play a more vital role as the DCU expands. Superman's relationship to the characters and world around him truly were a core part of the newest film, and what Superman would be complete without Lex Luthor? This version of Lex was perhaps one of the most interesting I've seen on the screen in a long while, finding a healthy mix between the Lex we know and the emotional and somewhat wacky Lex we got to see in Batman v Superman. Lex's hatred for Superman's natural strength used as a basis to create a rather insecure Lex, who hates the idea of being put in the same breath as historical greats, as he sees himself as superior. But what truly painted who this Lex was for me, and what made me grow attached to seeing his return, all comes from the moment he's beaten. That single tear he sheds when he's ousted as a traitor and arrested proves that in the end, what Lex cared for most was his image. And now that that image has been destroyed, I feel we're bound for a de-evolution of the character that'll make him a far greater threat than any version of Lex we've seen before, as now that he's lost everything, there's nothing more for him to lose. Beyond the Jor-El change, very little of Superman felt new. A lot of the film playing it safe with the usual Superman or superhero tropes, which came to bite the film in one major way, as it kept alive a recurring finale problem seen across various Superman media. A finale that's far too big for its own good. The Rift was a lot for our first dive into Superman. While I will give this movie its flowers and say I was impressed with how well this movie managed to hit on the importance of the city, showing how far Supes and his allies went to protect it and its people, the rift tearing through Metropolis ultimately got reduced to a giant set piece for Superman and Ultraman to smash each other through once the villain got involved. I get this as sort of a Superman staple. He's a guy with very little weaknesses, and so big world-ending level threats are sort of needed to up the stakes. But I still felt the whole rift destroying Metropolis was too much. When Terrific first warned of the rift, I had sort of assumed this would be a race to stop it from reaching the city, and feel that having Metropolis nearly torn apart is going to require far larger ramifications in-world than what the close of the film seemed to imply. Superman was a strong start to the brand new DCU. There's life, hope, and heart felt throughout that really pulls you in from start to finish. And Lex's mission to make Superman a monster, and in turn prove himself as one, sets up big things for both these characters and the future of DC as a whole. While Superman is a great start, I do think what's most integral to the DCU as a whole is yet to come. A strong first film lays out potential, but potential alone will not carry a MovieVerse. While I may have been in the minority, I truly did enjoy Man of Steel all the way back in 2013, and only lost interest after seeing where things went from Batman v Superman. DC's most integral films will be dropping over the next few years, and how this new universe fares will depend heavily upon how they intend to move forward with some of our favorite heroes and villains.